Hi. So what happens if they are disqualified? It sounds like this judge, the Supreme Judge, is going to disqualify them, or there is grounds for that. Anyone you talk to can't believe that this is actually happening. So if they're disqualified, who gets this case now? And how could that affect Donald Trump?
Well, it depends, Ainsley, on whether you make the leap from there needs to be a disqualification to that the disqualification may somehow have corrupted the fundamental or instigation of the investigation and the case. If they can get to that point, they have a chance to get the indictment dismissed. That's a heavy lift, so probably the case goes to subordinate prosecutors in the office. It's important to remember she's already disqualified from prosecuting one person in the case because of ethical violations during the investigation. So this isn't her first rodeo.
Okay, so if it goes to a subordinate prosecutor in her office, we probably know how they feel about this. Would it delay? Would this happen after the election?
Yeah, well, it's hard to make any assessment of that because there's no trial date here. And this really isn't, there's other litigation going on where you have one defendant, I think it's Mark Meadows, who's still trying to get the case moved into federal court. They still haven't had the major motions in the case. 4 people have pled guilty, but they've pled guilty to very minor charges. And I think that underscores what a lot of us have been saying from the beginning, which is that this case should have been brought, if at all, as a series of small cases, and she tried to wrap it into this big RICO. And now the allegation is, did she do that in order to churn the enterprise of bringing this case so that it would generate more money, since she, this is the allegation, was indirectly the recipient of the money through the people she hired.
All right, guys, so we got to talk about the mainstream liberal media. This episode starring Miss Rachel Maddow, okay? Rachel Maddow on MSNBC, who is turning on Miss Fani Willis, the woke Fulton County DA, who hired Nathan Wade, a special prosecutor, to go after Trump in her RICO case against him. Now, this case is on the verge of falling apart because Miss Fani Willis had a sexual relationship with Mr. Nathan Wade, okay? And I just want to say before I get into this video, I've had people write me whole paragraphs about how they're getting tired of my jokes, my sexual innuendos, and all of the things that I say about Miss Fani Willis to try to make these videos fun, right? Because, I do 3 or 4 very serious videos per day. And, sometimes I like to have fun with my videos. And maybe I'm having too much fun with the Fani Willis videos. So therefore, I will not be making any more jokes about Miss Fani Willis. I won't be, saying these sexual innuendos about the fact that, again, she had a sexual relationship with Mr. Nathan Wade, okay? I'm not going to do it. I'm going to refrain from it. I'm going to keep it as professional as possible, despite the fact that, again, this is probably one of the most hilarious stories, and the jokes kind of write themselves when it comes to this story, but I have to refrain from taking the bait because, some people don't like it. So with that being said, we got to talk about Rachel Maddow, who is turning on Miss Fani Willis because she is having her hearing to see if she is going to be disqualified from this case because of her relationship with Mr. Nathan Wade. Now, the judge already announced that, yes, she is eligible to be disqualified based off the current allegations against her by Mr. Michael Roman and his defense team, who is going to present evidence that suggests that there is a conflict of interest that would disqualify Miss Fani Willis from being on this case. Now, this is a big deal, okay? And the reason why is because up until now, the mainstream liberal media has tried to gaslight the American citizens in regards to this case, basically suggesting that despite these allegations, there's nothing about these allegations that would warrant disqualification, even though clearly and obviously it seems to me to be, at the very least, misuse of taxpayer funds. I mean, there are a ton of allegations against Miss Fani Willis about the misuse of taxpayer funds within her office, a conflict of interest, maybe even money laundering and fraud, considering how she's paying a guy that she was having a sexual relationship with money to be on a case that he's not qualified for, and then taking lavish vacations, traveling around the world with him, suggesting that she is benefiting from the taxpayer dollars that she's paying him to go after her political opponent. Okay, so now Rachel Maddow is actually admitting some rare truth on her network airways and basically calling a spade because the judge came out and said that, yes, she in fact may be disqualified because of the conflict of interest if it comes to the light that she is benefiting financially from this relationship. So Rachel Maddow is going to acknowledge this reality and also the reality of what happens if a judge actually does find that, hey, Miss Fani Willis is improperly benefiting from taxpayer funds and there's a conflict of interest. So without further ado, let's get into it.
Also on Thursday, Georgia prosecutor Fani Willis will be appearing at a hearing about whether or not she should be disqualified from her RICO case against Donald Trump in Georgia. Trump and some of his 14 co-defendants in Fani Willis's case in Georgia argue that she should be disqualified because she and one of the top prosecutors she hired for the case are involved in a personal romantic relationship. Now, Fani Willis has argued that nothing about that personal relationship is disqualifying. She's argued that Trump and his co-defendants are just using these allegations essentially as salacious distractions to try to muddy the waters and scuttle the case against them by creating a lot of public relations nonsense about this issue that has no legal consequence. That said, there was a hearing today on these allegations, and the judge in this case in Georgia said that these allegations against District Attorney Willis could result in Willis being disqualified from the case. And as such, he said he definitely wants to hear evidence on these allegations on Thursday of this week. So it all makes for a very, very busy week in terms of the legal part of our political news now.
Boy, Rachel looked like she's about to cry, right? She looks like she's about to cry because these people are banking on this case right here, the RICO case or the Jack Smith case, to take down Trump, right? They want a conviction before the election because they think that that's going to affect the outcome of the election. So what you're going to see here, okay, moving forward into this video is that the mainstream liberal media, okay, I'm pretty sure the Democrat parties will too, there's going to be massive pressure on Fani Willis to drop out, all right, to essentially step down from the case, because the longer that she continues to drag this out, the further back the trial is going to be pushed, okay? And the further back the trial is pushed, the more risk that there is that the trial will not happen before the election, that they're not going to get a conviction before the election. And that's going to defeat the whole purpose of the trial in the first place because it's not legitimate. The purpose of the charges against Trump is to try to stop him from becoming president of the United States, okay? So now that the writing's on the wall, the liberal media is going to turn up the pressure on Fani Willis to step aside, okay? Because she's getting in the way of the grand plan. And that's essentially the case that Rachel Maddow is about to make.
But it also puts District Attorney Fani Willis in quite a spot. I mean, regardless of what you or anybody else might think about Willis's personal relationship with this prosecutor and whether she did anything legally wrong here, the only person whose opinion really matters on that right now is the judge. And today in court, he did make clear, he did say explicitly that he thinks she might be disqualified from this case because of these allegations. Now, the key dynamic at work around this is that if Fani Willis is disqualified, fairly or unfairly, her whole office, the whole district attorney's office, is disqualified from working on that case, which would mean, in all likelihood, that whole case would go away.
Wow, what a stunning admission, right? A stunning admission, okay? So Miss Fani Willis is in a very, very, very interesting situation because, again, the whole point of these charges and these political prosecutions against Trump is to try to get a conviction before the election, okay? So what Fani Willis is risking here by remaining on the case instead of just stepping down and taking one for the team is that she's risking not only being removed and her office being removed, but she's also risking the whole case going away. Now, again, it's hilarious to me because Fani Willis comes off as the type of person, because she's a black woman, right? And she feels entitled, and she's doing this for her own political clout and her own political career because these charges are not legit. Her ego may get in the way, right? She may have such a big ego that she decides that, you know what, I don't care if the whole case goes away. I want to be the lead prosecutor. I want to be the one to get that conviction against the former president. Okay? However, I believe that behind closed doors, there is a massive pressure campaign on Fani Willis to step down, right? To step aside for that very reason, right? For this very reason that is being outlined by Rachel. That if you continue to stay on this case and it is found that there is a significant conflict of interest that results in disqualification, you're going to ruin the whole case. And the establishment, the powers that be, they can't have that, right? They can't have that. So I'm imagining there are probably people calling her up right now and giving her the same call that GOP chairman gave to Carrie Lake, saying, look, how much? How much? What's your price? What's your price? Okay. I mean, we know Nathan Wade's price. Okay. We know he got a price. Okay. But what's Fanny's price? Okay. What's her price? Because ultimately they want her to drop out. Okay. And they probably would much rather her drop out than for her to stay on the case and risk the whole case going away. So I'm just saying, don't be surprised if before this hearing that news comes out all of a sudden, oh, Fani Willis is dropped out. She's removed herself. Don't be surprised. Don't be surprised. Now, I'm not saying that'll happen for sure because her ego may just stop her from doing that. But there's most definitely going to be a massive pressure campaign for her to step aside before it's too late.
And that is why Georgia State University law professor Clark Cunningham argued in the New York Times last month that the best thing Fani Willis could do to protect her case against Trump and his RICO defendants in Georgia would be for her to take a leave of absence, for her to take a personal leave of absence from the district attorney's office to turn over the case to a deputy district attorney. That would end these proceedings against her effectively, and it would leave her office in charge of the case, and the case could still go forward.
Well, no, it's not the end for her because you still have the investigations dealing with the misuse of taxpayer funds, particularly federal funds. There is a investigation by the House Judiciary Committee initiated by Jim Jordan because whistleblowers have come forward and testified that, Fani Willis has been misusing funds. Okay. She knew about people under her misusing federal funds, grant money to do things they're not supposed to do with the money. And she knew about it. Right. And then she fired the whistleblowers. Okay. So there is going to be a hearing in the Georgia legislature on this issue, okay, of misuse of taxpayer dollars in the DA's office. So it's not over for her. Even if she steps down, it's not over for her. In fact, one of my biggest fears, if she steps down, is that Republicans decide that, oh, okay, we're going to stop investigating. Hell no. If she decides to step down, Republicans need to still go after her and teach her a lesson. Okay, she needs to be made an example out of, okay, and she needs to be brought up on criminal charges and thrown in prison if she, in fact, is guilty of misusing taxpayer funds. In fact, I'll go even further than that. I think that she should be brought up on RICO charges for how she constructed this whole case against Trump in the first place, because we already know that they're doing it for political purposes. She's trying to increase her political clout within the Democrat Party. Okay, she might run for mayor of Atlanta or governor of Georgia. She might, I don't know, become a senator or something. She's definitely trying to go for higher office, right? So we know that it's to go after her political opponents. We know that is to increase her own political clout, but I also think that is also for her own personal financial gain, okay? Because these RICO charges were a reach. The reason why you know that they're a reach is because the convictions that she has so far, which is about 4 people, they aren't real convictions, okay? Once these people serve their time on probation or whatever, they're done. They're not even gonna have any real charges on the books, okay? So she's not really getting any real convictions, which tells you that, she's overreaching, and she may have overreached as a way to garner more taxpayer dollars for the case, okay? When she really should have approached it in a different way. She came up with this grand RICO charge because she knew that it would generate more money. Even if she doesn't win, she still gets paid, right? She still benefits from it. And then she hires her boyfriend to get on the case. And then it's a double whammy, right? It's a jackpot for her. It's like hitting the lottery. I believe that that's what happened. We already know that this woman's corrupt. Okay, there's so many corruption allegations against her that have turned out to be true. So I think that she should be brought up on RICO charges and standing trial, eventually, hopefully found guilty, be thrown in a orange jumpsuit and have her mugshot taken at the Fulton County jail. That's what I want to see. Anything less than that is a failure, in my opinion. So again, even if she steps down, it's not over. It's not over. And a strong Republican Party would continue to go after her, regardless of if she decides to stay on the case or step down. My fear is that if she steps down, they'll leave her alone, which is the biggest issue with the Republican Party right now. They're weak.
We contacted Professor Cunningham about this today, these new developments. He told us, quote, this action, meaning a personal leave by District Attorney Willis, should be looked at strategically as the best option she has to make this enormously distracting controversy go away and to put the case back on track, still in the control of the Fulton County DA's office. If Judge McAfee grants any of the motions to disqualify Willis at the hearing Thursday this week, then her option to take leave probably disappears at that point.
So basically, she got to decide now, right? It's now or never. She has to decide now. That's why I told you guys, don't be surprised if all of a sudden you get news, Fani Willis is stepping aside, right? I'm not saying it will happen, but if she doesn't, it's an ego thing. It's 100% an ego thing. Like, if she's really a team player, she would just step aside, okay? If she's a team player. So again, it's gonna be interesting to see if her ego is going to get in the way of this case continuing to move forward.
Now, I should also mention the Washington Post is reporting tonight that Trump plans to attend that Thursday hearing in Georgia so he can be there in the courtroom as the details of this personal relationship between Fani Willis and this other prosecutor are laid out in open court. That should make it all the more of a circus. There will also, I believe, be cameras in that court proceeding. Don't quote me on that.
Yeah, so Rachel was also wrong on this because news has come out that Trump is actually going to be in New York at another case that he has to deal with. Unfortunately, okay, allegedly his advisors told him that it's better for him to be at another case that he has to deal with. But it would be hilarious if Trump actually does decide to show up and he's in that courtroom as Fani Willis is testifying, right, about her sexual relationship with Nathan Wade, right? Again, that would be amazing TV. I would love to see that. Okay, but unfortunately, he probably won't be there, as reports have come out today saying that he's not going to go, but we'll see. We'll see. Regardless, the pressure campaign is on, okay? As you can see here, Rachel is not too happy with the possibilities of this case going away.
But of course, Trump would like to be there regardless.
Yeah. So again, stunning admission from Rachel Maddow in the liberal media. Tells you everything you need to know about this case with Fani Willis and how it's falling apart. Again, the irony here of how all of this has worked out is glorious, okay? And, you know, I'm just enjoying every moment seeing this fall apart and how the media went from, oh, it's not a big deal, don't worry about it, there's nothing inappropriate about it, to the judge basically saying, yeah, these allegations could result in disqualification. We need to move forward with this. And then you got Rachel Maddow, one of the biggest liberal propagandists in media, admitting that, yeah, this case is about to fall apart, right? If this hearing does not go Fani Willis's way. So we'll see. Thursday is going to be a big, big, big day. Let me know what you guys think. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Most importantly, share a Black conservative perspective. Peace.